All right, this week, the former head of Reform UK in Wales was sentenced to more than 10 years in prison for taking bribes to make statements in favour of Russia when he was an MEP. Parties condemned him as treasonous, and leader Nigel Farage previously described him as a bad apple. I'm joined now by Reform's head of policy, Zia Yusuf. Zia, before we get on to that, can I just ask your reaction to the Trump peace proposal?
Well, look, as Nigel told the Telegraph on Friday, there are some concerns, I think, about this, and we're going to wait and see what the formal Ukrainian response is. But I think ultimately the most important stakeholder with regards to Ukraine's sovereignty are the Ukrainians themselves. I think the initial reaction we have is that too much appears to be being given to Vladimir Putin, which we're concerned about. But again, the most important stakeholder in Ukraine's sovereignty, as we just heard, are the Ukrainians themselves.
Well, you know, I'm going to ask you this. It's never been entirely clear to many people where your party stands on Putin, or specifically your leader. Here's what Mr Farage said last June. He said, "It was obvious to me that the ever-eastward expansion of NATO and the EU was giving this man, Putin, a reason to say they're coming for us again and go to war. We provoked this war." Look, whatever Nigel Farage meant by that, would you accept that his words may have given encouragement to the Kremlin?
No, I would not accept that at all. And the context for those words, by the way, Nigel gave a speech in Europe about a decade ago, basically warning that there's a path that's being head on here. But look, as Nigel said, we are where we are. Nigel's already said, for example, when he was pressed as to how he would respond if he was Prime Minister and Russian jets encroached into NATO airspace, that his view is that those planes should be shot down. We're crystal clear about our position.
I'm not trying to misrepresent. I'm not trying to misrepresent his position at all. All I'm saying is that all I'm asking is, you know, Russians are free to take anybody's words and mangle them. Do you think that it was a mistake for him to use the words, "We provoked this war"?
Again, no, I don't think so, because of the context of him merely repeating what he had said a decade ago. And listen, I would also say this, the notion that Vladimir Putin, the murderous dictator, is making decisions based on what Nigel Farage was saying here in England, I think is for the birds. We know we are now in a situation where Ukraine's sovereignty has been violated. Vladimir Putin needs to be brought to heel, and that's what we need to focus on.
But I want to give you the opportunity to be absolutely crystal clear.
Sure.
Because if I were watching this in Moscow, I'd already be writing down, oh, he supported the phrase, we, the West, provoked the war. And that comes from a leading figure in the party that is leading the polls in the United Kingdom. So actually a Reform government could turn out to be an ally here. I want you to be absolutely clear where you stand on this. Do you repudiate the words,
Trevor,
we provoked the war?
Nigel has been on the record, 2 weeks ago, saying that if he was a Prime Minister and Russian planes encroached into NATO airspace, he as Prime Minister would suggest that those be shot down. I don't know how much clearer we can be. And as someone who's worked with Nigel, I will tell you this. He did say a decade ago, and I think, frankly, it was quite prophetic, that there was a path that was being headed down here. But we are where we are now, and whenever Nigel is asked about this, Trevor, whenever Nigel's asked about this, he is crystal clear. Vladimir Putin is a murderous dictator. He is the aggressor in this war, and if Russian planes were to encroach into NATO airspace, they should be shot down.
Nigel Farage isn't sitting here. You're the authority.
I'm not, because he's the leader of the party.
Yeah, but you're the head of policy, you're on television, you're a top guy. He used the words, we provoked this war. Do you repudiate those words?
If you take all of the things Nigel has said in context, over the last decade, again, this is not some flash-in-the-pan comment. Nigel's been crystal clear. And Trevor, you are a smart person, and so are the people watching this programme. Two things can be true at the same time.
Why can't you just say...
He has said...
Why can't you just say...
Because it is not Nigel Farage's position that we, quote, provoked the war. Nigel's position is that a whole series of decisions...
We'll get out the clip before the end of the programme.
A whole series of positions were taken by NATO and by the European Union. We are where we are, and Reform and Nigel stands with the Ukrainians as Prime Minister. And by the way, that is a firmer position than the Prime Minister, by the way. Nigel's position is if Russian planes encroach into NATO airspace, they should be shot down. And I put it to you, those are stronger words with regards to Vladimir Putin than either the Prime Minister or Kemi Badenoch.
By the way, Ukraine's not in NATO, so it wouldn't apply. But I'll tell you why this matters to you politically. Mr Nathan Gill, your former leader in Wales, left party 4 years ago. All of that, I get that. He's now starting a long sentence for taking money from Russians. There will be many people who will say, well, these guys are soft on Putin. They think that the whole war is partly our fault and not his. Why should we trust anything they say about Russia, given that one of their people took money from Russians?
Well, I think that would be an incredibly unreasonable position to take. Look, Nathan Gill, what he did was treasonous.
Unreasonable as it
What he did was treasonous. It was horrific. It was awful. He's now been dealt with by the authorities. He deserves the sentence that he's gotten. But as you've just said, this is a guy, which, as far as we're concerned, is ancient history. I've never met him. I'd never heard of him, actually, until I saw his names, sadly, in the newspaper. So I think it is unreasonable to besmirch everybody else at Reform and the millions of people around the country who support Nigel and support our party.
All right. What do you want to hear from the Chancellor this week? I've already said to Mel Stride, I imagine he wants to hear the words, I resign. Let's put that aside.
Well, look, we've already laid out £25 billion in savings that the Chancellor could enact if they wanted to. Look, we keep hearing, people watching this programme have heard time and again over the last couple of decades, tough decisions need to be made, right? And invariably, when it comes to British citizens, they've got to pay more tax and accept worse services, and yet there appears to be an infinite money tree and a blank cheque for foreign citizens. So what we're saying is let's make foreign citizens bear the brunt first of these, quote, difficult decisions. So we've talked about, for example, withdrawing welfare, specifically universal credit for foreign nationals. We've talked about dramatically reducing the foreign aid budget until the state's finances are on a better footing. And we've talked about meaningfully increasing the immigration health surcharge, which is the amount of money that foreign nationals pay to access our NHS.
I've let you put forward your programme. I want to put this to you, ask you about this. Because in January last year, you said to us, you could cut the civil service in half. It's roughly 250,000 jobs. Your new policy guy, Danny Kruger, now says that your target is just 100,000 civil service jobs. Why have you gone soft?
We haven't. I can tell you for a fact. I spoke to Danny last night about it.
100,000.
We will announce. We will announce. Well, that's not our position on the civil service. We will cut far more jobs than that. And I'll tell you,
it'll be more than 100,000.
We are working currently on a detailed plan on how we can dramatically reduce the size of the civil service. But I want to go back to the original point. We have laid out £25 billion of savings that could be made by this Chancellor. And by choosing not to do that, Trevor, and choosing to raise taxes on people in this country, she is prioritising foreign nationals over UK citizens, which has frankly been the refrain of the political class for the last 15 years. All
right, talking about foreign nationals, Shabana Mahmood's made you all look a bit milk and water this week, hasn't she? She's shot your fox.
Well, what she's doing is, I think she's doing a couple of things. Number one, it is really important to look past a lot of the headline-grabbing things that she's announced. One, almost everything she's announced requires primary legislation, meaning she needs her own backbench MPs to support her. No suggestion that that is actually going to happen. In fact, I think more than 20 Labour MPs are publicly on the record as opposing. And that's number one. Number two, she's also talking about creating new, quote, safe and legal routes, and has refused to put a hard cap on what those numbers would be. So from what we can tell, she's opening up a back door here where she can reduce illegal migration by allowing those people to come in legally.
She's harder than you. She's made you look soft.
We have said, Trevor, we have been very open about it. If she really wants to stop the boats, then reformparty.uk/defections, we will have hundreds of MPs who will vote such measures through. If she really believes in that, she should go and apply to defect.
Zia Yusuf, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.